The following video will contain spoilers. Not that it really matters. I am not too keen on this one. Interstellaria is a micromanager's game, part curating a space fleet, part commanding your crewmen through the story of Mass Effect 2. Ships may be purchased and customized and crewmen hired with the dosh that you'll earn from your off-world ventures, allowing you to venture ever more freely in collector-infested space. Collector? No, you misheard me. I said black ooze-infested space. Everyone knows black ooze is #1 reaper of human colonies, thanks to their definitely original OP spaceship. I was pumped to do the Faster Than Light comparison, matching spacey this to Starfleet that, but the first hurdle that's currently lying bent and broken like it's been through an inner city sports day is basic usability. The UI is hell-bent on beating Windows 8 in the 100-meter interface fuck-ups. It functions, which is never the gushing praise you want to hear, but Interstellaria mostly continues to work. Yeah. But simple tasks, in a game that demands you manage multiple crewmates across a fleet of ships, take longer than they should, are trickier to perform than they ought to be, and at worst you'll be left wondering what the hell just happened and why. Character design is first on the chopping block. On your star cruiser, come spacefaring tin can, you may amass a considerable number of crewmen, picked up on excursions or hired from trade ports. For reasons of science and self-loathing, I crammed 7 onto the starting ship. More crewmen means more people to man ships and stations, douse fires or make repairs. In theory. Crewmen are tiny pixel figures on a pixel background without so much as a shadow to distinguish them from scenery or indeed each other. It means that the scene is never immediately readable. You can't glance and extract information the instant some Goram space wanker bears down on you. Your followers stack and hide the one you're after, and the one on top is not necessarily the one that your mouse will grab first. It wouldn't be a problem but for the fact that tab targeting fails to convey crew members' names and roles when aboard ship, instead flagging your selection with a pixel art arrow that is itself hard to pick out from the background. And frustratingly, tabbing works just fine on away missions, but gets nerfed in the cramped confines of your fleet where you need it most. The active pause helps get your head on straight, but having to interpret what's happening before you can act is exhausting. Let's say your hull takes a kicking, oxygen's leaking, and you're telling your wife that you love her and the crew starts looking like the Blue Man Group. The cracks, themselves a handful of pixels, are overlaid on the workstations, behind the crewmen currently working. You can't know where the leak is without shuffling the crew, checking behind them, and then setting them to repairs, hoping that your click actually applies to the crack and not the console it's attached to. It's like playing musical hull breach. Again, it works, but it's a drag, slowing your way to accomplishing anything of note. Let's contrast it with FTL's top-down display. Crewmen are indistinct blobs, but they're individually selectable from a display on the left, which also gives their health. Systems are divided into rooms, so it's clear where you're leaky. Art has precedence in Interstellaria, and that is a fundamental error. Alas, the interface woes continue as we take stock of the inventory, or rather your inventories, ship and mission. When you land, which always counts as a mission, the ability even to check your ship's hold goes missing. That junk you've been amassing can't be sold unless it's dragged to the away cargo in orbit, you land, sell your stuff, take off, transfer cargo, land, and how I wish we could write that off as a lone mistake. The fleet manager is also only accessible in orbit, while upgrades are bought on the ground and must still be transferred to the hold before they're of use. Bring a list if you don't want to make real good friends with the landing animation. The captain's log, a sci-fi staple, is just balked. It's not a record of what you've done, what was said, and what your objective is. It's a collection of key items arranged in non-chronological order that do not consistently explain what you ought to be doing. Figuring out the next objective is like solving a crossword set by a very boring man who enjoys long, unnecessary walks, because in the event that these objects are unhelpful, a common occurrence. You have to fly across the galaxy to the starting space station, land, talk to the relevant NPC who might not be there because sometimes it bugs, write down the next location because that won't get recorded, and fuck off back into space. And at this juncture, I will note that the fast mode available on away missions is unaccountably disabled when flying your ship, so get YouTube on standby because Interstellaria ain't small. In fairness, there are events en route. You'll bang into escape capsules, clone pods and asteroids, but in just a few hours I've seen 2 of each. Random events have a certain flair, like gender swapping your entire crew, but others have no discernible impact, like the scrambled star map I unscrambled by landing and taking off again. And call me a pedant, but the punctuation is distractingly poor. Text is often just incomplete, and a simple proofread would have transformed a passion project into a professional product. But what of those space wankers we spoke of? What happens when pirates strike? If you're used to FTL static combat, then Interstellaria is a novelty. It makes a mini-game of it, having you position your tub in real time to align fire with enemy hulls and scoop up loot. Or you can do what I did, and not. Wait 20 seconds or so to spool the FTL drive, less time than it takes for enemy fire to cross the screen, and you can just leave. You know, if you've got something on or you're late for an appointment. It's not that combat is bad, it is an enjoyable distraction, but one that hasn't been properly integrated with the game. Perhaps it'll come back to bite me, but in 8 hours I haven't found a need for upgrades. The whole fleet thing, the core concept of Interstellaria, isn't made necessary. I learned to cheat at away missions too, hitting fast mode and just running past monsters in the way. It's not always straightforward, but only because the pathing... oh god, the pathing. Ground combat is beige, demanding no more nuance than selecting the group and a target. The linear chain of fetch quests that is the main story is... well, it's not space opera, let's put it that way. At one point, as at every other point, you need some information. Fine, says the sentient tree you approach. Bring me 5 canisters of goop and it's yours. 5 canisters later, oh, did I say 5? I want another 20. 25 canisters later, oh, did I say 20? I want another 30. And this isn't comic exaggeration, this is actually what happened. This is a story mission. Here is goop harvesting gameplay.
Jesus, you're terrible at that. I'm trying. Some gay guys are good at cooking.
Haha, she call you gay.
Guys, that's funny. Come here, Lego.
And it bugs, the thing bugs. Infinite loading, missing quest NPCs, missing text, characters getting forced out of the level. You can command your ship to take off without you, triggering an instant game over. Workstations can be dragged outside the confines of the fleet. That Interstellaria works despite all this is the highest compliment I am prepared to pay, and that's never a pleasant thing to say at the end of one man's 2-year project, that it just about functions. Its UI works against the player, making the all-important business of micromanagement a trying chore. Its space battles, although novel, are poorly integrated, and ground combat is largely skippable. I'm putting this one out the airlock, folks. Until Tuesday, the con is yours. What an end to the week. But if that wasn't miserable enough for you, tune in next week when I will be doing From Grim to Grim, a Witcher retrospective part 2. Hit that subscribe button and you and I can be miserable together.